All right. Twitch.com/twitch.tv slash Pete Mohrbacher is now live. Okay. I'm back to studying. Hey, Chico.
What up, what up, what up?
Let's see. I'm going to try to get my headphones on today.
Nothing's nice.
Okay. All right. Live early. Yeah, like a minute early. I'm on it today. I had a slow-ass morning. So I was like looking forward. I was like counting the minutes till I go live. I was ready today.
In the section where it says, like, the reference images for today, what are the other three? How come you only have one? Is there other sessions?
What? Wait, what are we talking about?
You posted 4 images in the today. I was just curious.
I'm posting 4. So there's 4 tracks. There's the portrait track, and then there's a masterwork. So I've got some classical piece of art from various different art movements. Then I've got a landscape, and then I've got something anime. And so that's going to be the pattern. They're like, I think I can get them all in the same. They're in the same order today as they were yesterday. So yeah, they're going to be in the same order every time. So I'm going to be. I can pick from different categories. It's just that I've been really most interested in doing the portrait study.
And what are you going to do all 4 on stream, or people can pick and choose which ones they want to get to, or what?
I just wanted to give people options to be able to let them pick what they wanted to do, because like, like some people, they're not doing characters at all; they're just landscape artists. So I was like, well, we should have a figure and a landscape.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then I was like, well, if we're gonna have a figure and a landscape, well, what about people? I'm like, master studies are also kind of cool. Like, I should have that as an option, because that's something I kind of want to try at some point too. And then Jazz is like, hey, what about anime? And I'm like, all right, fine, it's 4 now. I thought it was going to be 2 images, and now it's like it ballooned to 4 even before I got it out the gate. So we'll see. Like, I could peel it back to just being like 2, and be like, pick one of these 2 and quit complaining.
How many viewers are you getting current, like, in general, typically on stream?
It grows over the course of the stream. It usually starts around 50, and then it usually ends somewhere over 100.
Oh, nice. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, it's like I'm very close to, and it's been the average number has been growing faster, and like the number of followers goes up every stream. Like the best streams, we've had like nearly 100 new followers, while like on average it's anywhere from like 20 to 50 new followers per stream. And
what do you say is the main place people are discovering you? Is it just on the Twitch homepage, or are they coming from other platforms?
It's a good question. I mean, some of it's hard to pin down. Like we've gotten some of them from raids. Like the peak viewer numbers we've gotten since I've started streaming has been times immediately after like a larger art streamer like was like raiding me. But I've had numbers that are close to that without a raid and without promoting on Twitter or Instagram. So I think it's got to be from people discovering it from the like channel, like creative channel page.
And how many streams have you done so far since you started?
I don't know, maybe about a dozen, I think.
Okay, damn.
But like I had about 1,000 followers on my tab when I left. Like I did it like 4 years ago, and I immediately got like 100 concurrents and like about 1,000 followers, and it was like off to a strong start just because people knew who I was. And then
Yeah.
now that I'm jumping back into it, I've got a little bit of a basis already established. Not
Hmm.
huge, but a bit.
And with Twitch, obviously, once you leave, it's like super tough. Like any inconsistency is super tough to get back where you were.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of exposure to it. Um, my plan for this go at it is to like I've got 3 months kind of planned where I'm like committed, and
Hmm.
then um, during that 3 month period, I'm going to try to be here at the same time every weekday.
Hmm.
And I think with that level of consistency and that amount of time, I'm really curious like where it builds up to, because like right now I'm already in like close to the top 10 in terms of like regular art streamers because the art streaming category is not particularly active.
Hmm.
It's not super competitive.
Hmm.
Um, so like my hope is to actually be like one of the top regular art streamers on the platform by the end of the next 3 months. But that also feels like a starting point because if I wanted to make Twitch like a really active part of what I'm doing, it either needs to feed directly into something else, like it needs to be a major part of me growing a successful YouTube channel, or be like a way that like we do something that's like for a larger audience or something because it's like it as far as like the dollar to time ratio goes, it's like brutal.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where like VODs and stuff like that comes in.
Yeah, so like yeah, it's like there's gonna be a big emphasis on like VODs and stuff,
Yeah.
just because like you know I,
Are you,
I
are you gonna have are you gonna have a clip channel or not?
yeah we already have like a VOD channel. Like that's one of the things that Dustin's been working really hard on. He's out here working as like my producer and like he's been editing down a lot of VODs
Oh,
and like making and pulling out sections that are on specific topics from like
oh yeah,
conversations that are happening here and uploading them onto my
yeah.
new YouTube channel. And then we're also
Mhm.
planning on having like a Huckleberry YouTube channel that is going to be more, maybe mostly more produced content, but it might also have some VOD stuff on there too. We'll see.
Mhm. But are you focusing on your personal one for now? You don't want to spread yourself too thin.
Well, I'm already spread pretty thin. It's like right now, it's like how much Dustin is getting spread thin because he's the
Uh-huh.
one who's like, he's the video master. So he knows the YouTube like and Twitch growth space way better than me. He
Mhm.
is a professional video editor, something I have no skill in whatsoever. So like without him working on this, I like basically can't do it. Um, and like there's been a real challenge in like how do I set this up in a way that's gonna like work out. There's a reason why I hadn't been doing it is because like there's a lot of other skill sets besides just like sitting around and painting that need to happen in order to make this operation work. And so collaborating with Dustin has been like the reason why I've been able to do this. But if I didn't have a collaborator, or like I wasn't willing to like invest in like bringing on staff, I I don't I don't know if I would be able to do it. It'd still be like fun for a lark, I think, to like come, especially if like I'd already been hanging out on Discord streaming. Now I'm hanging on Discord and streaming to a bigger platform.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of expanding like the way I'm co-streaming across multiple different spaces.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, we'll see how it evolves. Right, so far it's like it's not gigantic, but I'm like really happy with it.
Yeah, and for those in the call, if there's something that does go on during the stream where you're like, wow, that was a really cool thing, and you do timestamp it, let me know. And if you decide to clip it, you could send it over to me, and I can get it uploaded after I review it. And it seems like it would be good to upload to the channel.
Hey, so speaking of that, which I've got my Elgato now, and I saw some other streamer had a button that was like to
Yeah, you can mark.
mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gotta set up like a marking on the thing.
Yeah, I can reach out to some friends and see what they say about marking. I'll reach out to a couple of people who I think do it regularly.
Okay.
ask a question about this photograph? Sorry to change the subject.
Sure.
Okay, so I noticed this with a lot of portrait paintings as well. So on the right, we have like a light figure against a dark background, and as we transition to the left, we have like dark against light.
Uh-huh.
And I know there's a word for that. I think it's called Rembrandt, but I'm not really sure. And I'm just wondering, is there a benefit to that type of lighting, or like what effect does it give, or is it just because it looks good?
Well, like you have the lighter side of the face against the darker background and the darker side of the face against the lighter background.
I was mostly looking at the white cloth.
Oh, yeah, the white cloth.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the same thing where we've got the shadowed side is against the white background and the light side is against the dark background.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do that all the time whenever I'm painting, where if I have the light coming from a particular side, I will shade the background there, and then, on the shadow side, that's where I'll put a light, like either lit fog or a cloud or something that's getting a lot of light hit on it on the darker side. It helps create contrast and readability. I don't know if there's a name for it in specific. Rembrandt lighting I always think of as being the specific angle of the light, where like you have the Rembrandt lighting is where you have the light like it hits the one side of the face at an angle enough to cause like a little triangle on the opposite cheek, where you get
I
like a
see.
cast shadow. So when you see that triangle on the dark side of the cheek, I think of that as Rembrandt lighting. But I'm pretty weak when it comes to art history, so I'm maybe not the best resource for that.
Oh, thank you for explaining that to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any questions? Like, I love being able to answer questions on here. This is like what it's for.
All right, I just asked two of the folks about that Stream Deck thing to clip and mark stuff in the stream.
Nice.
You sketch it out so loosely. It's such a loose sketch. You really it's so weird decision that you solve all the problems of painting rather than the earlier sketch.
That's really just like a byproduct of me working digitally. Like when I'm working traditionally, I do a lot more in terms of solving stuff in the drawing. But like, we were talking about what's like a good solution for, being able to draw and paint digitally. And I'm like, oh yeah, don't worry about drawing on the screen, just draw on paper. Because it's a pain in the ass to try to get detailed drawings here, because like I would have to zoom in and I would have to like take a lot of revisions and stuff to be able to get it. While with when I do it this way, if I can get the blocks, the color blocks, like the drawing is really there just to sort of contain these like color blocks. And if I can get those going, then I can start getting rough values in. And if I have the rough values in, all I need to do then is like find some edges and like clean up some edges and some transitions, and I'm like off to being able to like create like a nice finely rendered piece.
Would you say you're I don't know if you have like a distinction in your head, but I was asking Ash yesterday the same question. Do you think you have like better drawing or painting skills personally?
Oh, painting, 100%.
Do you want to improve your drawing or?
Yeah, the problem is like I can do a lot of stuff while I'm painting, and for me like a huge amount of my choices have to do with like how efficiently I can stack up multiple things together. So like, can I get paid multiple times for a piece of work is like a question I'm always asking myself when I'm working on something. But then like, if I am painting and I can be socializing or creating content or like watching a movie or something, it feels to me like it's more efficient. And so I really like spending a lot of time. I spend most of my time painting because I can do it while I do other things. While drawing requires so much more brain power that it feels like I feel like burdened, and it can feel tedious, and it's like it's frustrating at times to draw for me, because it's like it's so much more brain intensive, and it's limiting in what else I can do, and so I need to reserve special time for it, which is not like the case for painting.
Other than what you're doing now, like on this stream, do you do any kind of personal studies, or
This is
are you?
the studies I've been doing on stream are the first personal studies I've ever done.
No way.
Yeah, I never had any kind of like study. It was always like any kind of like reference gathering or research I was doing was in service of a painting that I was currently working on.
Hmm. How long have you been like uploading regularly and just doing the whole like angel stuff?
Oh, like a full-time indie. It's coming up on 10 years.
Wow. Okay. So you got a lot of experience. So you basically built up all your like visual library just from rinse and repeat of like working on an artwork and then making a new one and a new one over and over.
Yeah, like, you were saying how you were thinking, oh, I'm not good enough to be able to work on paper because, I don't feel confident enough in my drawing abilities to like commit to a medium that's less flexible. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, it's like there's no like, I don't like this idea of like waiting for like being good enough to like do a thing. Like, I think that the only path forwards is to just do the thing and then
Well, it's not
keep
just
doing
that.
it. But I mean,
Sure, I
it's
agree with
it's true with a lot of stuff though. Like, there's a lot of people like waiting for the time and when they feel like they're ready, and I don't think that is an effective strategy for most things. Like, I think people should just jump in, especially if it's like something creative. Like, you only really ever get, you can learn academically, but I feel like that's always just to build on top of the experiences that you're having, and not like something that it's not learning that can exist really in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Like, I wouldn't say to somebody like, yeah, don't worry how to like pack your parachute. Just go jump out of an airplane and figure it out. Like, but we're talking about drawing in pencil, or like talking about painting in Photoshop. They're like most forgiving things you could ever do in your life. Super low stakes, super forgiving, and yet like I see a lot of people who are intimidated by it. I mean, I get intimidated by it. Like, I want to do good at stuff. I want to make sure that I'm like doing a good job at things, and that I'm not like making a fool of myself, and I'm not like being a shitty artist. And that's, I think, part of what kept me out of doing studies is I was like, well, I've never done studies, and so I'm going to stink at them, and so I don't want to do them. I certainly don't want to do them in public. And then and then I made the dumb choice of doing them in public, and I was like, boy, that sure sucked. I should figure out how to do this for real.
So that's what you're doing now.
That's what I'm doing now, yeah. So I started doing it every day, and it's been a really great experience. So it's like, if there's something that's been on your mind that you want to do artistically, rather than worry about whether or not you have the right tools or the right experience to pull it off, I say just do it. And then if you ever want to redo it, you can always redo it.
Yeah. It's just I never see it like I don't know of anyone. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can correct me. It's just, is it the case that people do use how many people in the industry do use traditional as their often for their actual workflow for like typical artworks?
A bunch.
Really?
Yeah, like especially in concept art. There's a lot of concept artists that work exclusively in pencil.
No way.
Hey, Summer Dragonist, glad you can finally join us on Twitch. Yeah, no, I've met a bunch. Some people who like work on, the biggest Hollywood projects and like big game studios and stuff work entirely in pencil.
No way.
Absolutely.
That that shocks me. I've only considered it as a learning to help aid your digital skills. I've never even considered it as like its own. I just feel like everyone's moved past it. Like I didn't think anyone actually did.
No, no, no. I mean, pencil is like, it's an incredibly powerful medium. It's super flexible. It's like, it transports well. It leaves a really cool looking original, but it's just like, it's so insanely high fidelity. Like one of the artists that I know of that like works in Hollywood, that is like exclusively doing pencil is Alan Williams. I think he works at a game studio now, but he was for many years was like freelance entirely on like film projects. And he will be so he sharpens his pencils down to like these incredibly tight points using like exotic pencil sharpeners, and then will like actually sometimes draw between the grains of the paper because he's maneuvering this like ultra fine needle pencil point around like because he's creating these really fine textures at times, and so he's actually working through the texture of like the paper weave while he's working, which is intense.
Yeah, it is weird. I did digital my whole life, or not my whole life, but like from 15 for like 5 years. And now going back to studying on paper is the weirdest feeling to be able to zoom in infinitely without being limited by pixels. It's like the fact that you can it definitely is super helpful. It definitely helps. Like it's definitely.
But like one of the people often comments on like my brush work that digitally that it looks kind of like traditional. And like, I think the thing that makes it look traditional is that like the brushes that I'm using transfer the motion of my hand really clearly. And like with every traditional medium, it's not just that you get this like super high fidelity. It's also that like the action of the artist's hand is like really crystallized in the medium itself. Like how you move your hand is really it's like so high fidelity that it leaves this fingerprint in the pattern of the way that the graphite like goes around. And so when you see like an artist like Eliza or somebody who's like got a really unique style, like you can see the way like all the construction lines and how they weave together, it's like incredibly personal to them.
What would you say is it about your brushes that mean you can see that? Is it just the jitter or like the color jitter or what?
No. It's the flow thing that I do. Turning the flow down. So
I know what flow is, but why would that?
Well, check this out. So if I move the brush side to side, let's do it at 100%. Yeah. If I move the brush side to side, you can see that like the ends of the strokes. It's like you can tell that this brush moved side to side because the edge of the strokes are soft this way, and you can tell that this one moved up and down because the terminals of the strokes are this way. So the direction and speed I'm moving my hand is like captured in the stroke itself. So
as opposed to what's without flow? Or sorry, 100% flow. What does that look like?
Looks like this. And so like if I were to draw like a box or something, it's like it's hard to tell what's happening there.
Yeah.
But like here there's like an additional level of character to it because you can see where like points didn't overlap as much, and you can see where like strokes end. And it's a little bit more, it captures more of the natural motion of my hand as I'm working. And then this brush, the sponge brush that I have, it does a lot of the same thing, where you can see like the pressure and the direction and the speed of it like is captured somewhat in the stroke itself. So when you see the final image, it looks like you can see my hand in the work. And people love that. I love seeing that. I love seeing the artist's hand like in the work itself.
So what you were talking about, what's the word, I forgot the word you used yesterday, but the thing where you see like fraud check, like seeing who's bad, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, shibboleth.
Yeah. What would you say, is that one of them that when you don't see the brushwork?
Well, it's not even just the brushwork. It was like the artist that you were showing us, like they had kept it so loose that you still had this like incredible view into like the choices and the artist's work, because you know they were like, you could see the individual strokes. And so instead of polishing it down so it's just these like smooth transitions of color, like when you leave it a little chunkier and when you use tools that like leave this remnant of the work behind, like you see a bit of like the humanity of the artist like there on the page, which I mean, we love it. We love to see it. Like, especially art nerds, I think you love to see that it's not just like a good painting, but you can see it like came from a person, and you can see their personality in the work, and you see the marks that they make, and like it doesn't feel like a synthesized thing. It feels like a part of somebody's life that they've like left behind. You know, it feels personal. And I always love to see art that is like got some of that personality in it.
That's like Craig Mullins has that the most, don't you think?
Yeah, Craig Mullins I think is a great example. He's like he leaves so much texture in his work as like as a matter of expressiveness, right? Like some of it is a matter of efficiency, I think. Where you're like, okay, I want to do a ton of paintings for this client, so I'm going to work really efficiently to try to make sure that...
He reminds me of you the way he talks. And I was watching when I was watching one of his courses.
Oh yeah?
He describes...
You comparing me to Craig Mullins?
Yeah. No, not the art, just the way he talks.
Oh, okay. Oh, Cube was asking in chat, can you stream? Yeah, you can stream onto the Discord. It's not going to go onto Twitch, but you can stream into the Discord if you want to have your screen share up so the other people in the Twitch room or in the Discord room. Yeah, Summer Dragoness is saying Alan Williams makes his own pencil holders now because he eats through pencils so fast. Like he's a nut.
Slow.
Huh?
That's got to be so slow. Like that must be so inefficient to just do pencil work.
He's insanely proficient.
But surely, like the industry can't have someone work like it can't run on everyone just working on pencil entirely, you know?
I don't know. I mean, do you want good art or not?
Yeah, well, like...
But, like, no, I've not... so, like, when I was working on Magic the Gathering on the concept art side of things, one of the people I was working with was Steve Prescott, who I love Steve Prescott's work. And he works exclusively in pencil doing concept art, and then when he's doing illustration, he works in acrylic. And with Wayne Reynolds, both of them were doing full-time, like, pencil concept art, and they were Wayne Reynolds was producing more pieces than me using only pencil and a photocopier, because he would do thumbnails and then he would blow them up on a photocopier and then he would draw over them. And so he was doing, like, maybe 4 or 5 pieces a day, I think. And Steve Prescott was doing maybe 4 or 5 pieces a day in pencil, and I was doing like 3 or 4 digitally, working exclusively in Photoshop. So the people I know that have done like exclusively pencil concept art are usually as fast or faster than digital artists.
Damn. Do you think on stuff like Disney, since they moved to digital? When, like, before, obviously, they used to animate, obviously, on like, matte painting used to be on
glass.
I don't know. Yeah, stuff like that.
On glass.
Do you think do you think quality's been lost since they moved to digital?
No, no, I don't think so. The like
So
it's like there's a lot of it. My point isn't that like pencil good, digital bad. Like the point is like people work differently, and like there is real advantages to working in pencil that
uh,
I mean this. So you had this perception of like, well, like people move past pencil to get when they can get better tools. But
yeah,
like I don't like to see art tools as being better or worse than each other generally. Um, I mean it matters like the specifics of like what you want out of them. So when you were like, "Oh, I'm thinking of getting this tablet," and I was like, "Well, that's worse than the iPad you already have." Like it's not like worse in some existential way. It's like it's a lower resolution, it's a worse surface. It's like I think it's like
yeah,
you can measure some of those qualities. You
yeah,
can measure whether or not a pencil is sharp or blunt, but to say like pencil as a medium is like better or worse than like another medium, you could say it's slower or faster. You could say it's more precise or less precise, whatever. Like you can give it these qualities, but I don't think you can, fully define it as being better or worse broadly. And I know people. So I know people that do full time pencil concept art, and I know people that do full time pencil as indie illustrators, where they only ever all they do is pencil drawings, and then they sell prints and merchandise and stuff of only pencil drawings, no color. Like
sure.
there's really no limit to like what can be done with a graphite only art career. My first mentee, her primary medium was ballpoint pen.
Yeah, you said. So do you, with all your angel stuff, do you always sketch it out first in pencil?
Typically, yeah. There's a few of them that
Really?
aren't, but I think I get a lot out of the pencil part of the process. I think it adds a ton of value to the whole feeling of the pose and the vibe and like the design. Like everything that people like about my work, I think a lot of it comes from committing to pencil drawing.
Mhm.
And so I feel bad that I feel like I really do want to learn more pencil. I want to study more drawing because I'm kind of behind on it.
So that's
Anyone
been,
getting really bad cursor stuttering in Photoshop after the most recent NVIDIA update? Oh my god. Yeah, I'm on CS6, like an ancient version of Photoshop, because I don't trust getting updates from this kind of thing. I also use WinTab instead of Windows Ink for my driver, because I think Windows Ink causes like a lot of lag for me whenever I'm using it in Photoshop. Causes me to like randomly miss my alt presses because the previous brushstroke hasn't like fully registered. I hate it. Windows Ink feels like a crime against tablet users. What were you saying, Chico?
I can't remember.
Oh, couldn't have been that important then, right?
Definitely not.
So right now I'm planning out what I'm going to be doing with this, like, because structurally it's like solidifying quite a bit. I need to make like one final check to make sure that everything is where I want it. I'm planning on keeping. I think I'm going to keep the fabric. I think I'm going to blow out the lighting on the fabric. And then I want to do something stylistically with the gems instead of trying to do them precisely. And then do my usual like kind of rendering, and then do my usual rendering stuff on the skin tone. So this one I think I'm gonna bust through fast. So I'm gonna have some like extra time today. Oh, thanks Summer Dragoness for the Prime sub. Love to see the subs. All right, so how far off am I here? Huh. Okay. Okay, I see it. Got it over my skis on this shoulder. Something felt wrong over there.
Can I ask a question? But sorry.
Yeah. No, it's open. It's an open floor here.
When I do like concept art and things like that, I really struggle with environment drawings. Like, I don't know. I understand when something is close to you, you need to draw it with more details. You need to draw them with, I don't know, higher, more details and things like that, right? And
Yeah.
so what I do is what I do is I draw them in two separate layers, and when I do that, they seem like they come from two different planets. Like they have nothing in common. They look nothing like each other. I don't know. It's I don't know. It really turned out bad. I don't know what to do about it.
I don't know,
Can you
man.
help?
If have you tried putting it all in one layer?
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I tried, but I don't know. Like I tried to change my like my brush. I tried to, I don't know, zoom more when I do that, and there's midground and background, and midground needs to have more details, and I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know what to do about it. Do you
Well,
have the tips or something like that?
well, number one, I'm like not as good with environment work as I am with character stuff. So like I'm with you. Like I find environment stuff to be pretty challenging.
I'm really big fan of your environment. You're lying right now. Like, I
Lying.
study your work. Like your environment is fucking amazing. What are you
Well,
talking about?
I'm no good with perspective, and I'm not so good at establishing scale. Like I'm trying to make things look huge, but I feel like I'm always falling far short of the references I'm looking at. And I don't do environments as much. Like if I committed to environments, I think I could probably get pretty good at them. But I do like one environment for every 20 character pieces that I do. So I just don't have the time put in on them the same way that I do with characters. But my character pieces tend to have backgrounds in them, but they are not like multi-figure pieces with like a really specific scene with really specific actions. So like my environments, they tend to be kind of like a open landscape. I'm really bad with interiors, and like setting multiple figures in perspective in a scene is something I struggle tremendously with. So, I really think of myself more as a character artist, because that's where I have an easier
Do you draw
time.
them all in one layer?
Hmm?
Do you work in one layer only?
No, I typically have a lot of layers. Here, I can show you what one of my paintings looks like. So there's a lot of layers, but the layers are like different stages of the painting. So like if you peel them back, we go sort of back in time through the painting. So it's like layers of oil paint almost.
I see.
So like, I'll be working out different elements, and then I'll be bringing in different kinds of layers with different blending modes to sort of add color or effects. And then I will be doing like layers that are just like tons of brush strokes, but then when I need to add like a different like effect or something, I will have to like I've added soft light to try to juice the lighting a little bit on this. And then like I need to, when I want to work above it, I've got to make a new layer. So I'm always kind of working on the top layer. So it's kind of like if I were to be merging them over and over again and always working on the top layer, but or if I were just like merging it over and over again, working on one layer, it'd be pretty similar. But I have the sort of history of the piece like established through these layers. That helps me out a lot.
So cool. Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, I recommend like if there's something really specific that you want to learn, like you want to be able to do like landscapes. It's about, there's like these questions that linger in your mind, right? Like, well, how come my foreground and my background don't feel like they're the same? And so you have to like have a question like that and want to answer it in order to learn what to do different. And so, you have to like
drawing.
you have to like look into your references and say like, okay, well, what in these other paintings or what in these photographs is making it do what my, why is this working and mine isn't? And be asking that question, and then when you're making your next painting, pull in references and try to figure out, like, what do you need to do differently in order to get the result that you're wanting? Because there's not an absolute truth on, like, how to do it. There's, like, a lot of different ways that you can stylize it or, like, come up with solutions. But it's entirely dependent on what you want to accomplish artistically. So I think, like, you'd probably, like, I've got these studies, right? I'm doing studies every day, and I also have, like, the channel on the server, on the Huckleberry art server, with reference images every day. One of them's a landscape. But, like, even if you were to do studies every day for 30 days, you might get better-ish, but it's not unless you balance that with doing your own work. So, like, I would recommend that you once a week try to finish a new painting, landscape painting, and then every day do a quick landscape study. And, like, between those two, I think you're going to figure out what you're missing. That, like, the lessons that you've, like, managed to skip over.
I get it. Thank you.
I found the create stream marker thing. My friend told me about it, and I looked it up, and it's in your DM, so we'll be able to handle it later.
Nice. Anytime I feel like I've dropped, like, a major wisdom bomb on people, I'll, like, hit the button. Should make your job a little easier. All right. Comic Stance is asking, like, what about doing a study but into an original composition? Does the study need to mimic the case? Does the study need to mimic the case study, or can you use the information to make something new? Well, like, this is how I ended up actually learning without doing studies. Was that, like, I am, I'm working on a piece, and I run into a spot where I'm like, ooh, I don't understand how to make this look good. And I would go and find a reference, and I would study the reference in service of completing the painting. So I would end up doing studies, but I wouldn't be doing, like, a study just of, like, a mountain. I would be, like, pulling up a photo of a mountain to paint a different looking mountain in the background and have it be, like, a more indirect kind of reference. And by doing that over and over again, I developed a library of visual solutions to a lot of common problems I was having. And so, like, it was really, really tedious at first to try to finish paintings when I was, feeling like I didn't know how to do anything. And every time I tried something new, it looked like crap. But by, like, just committing to solving the problems and, like, giving myself a near unlimited time budget to go and try to fix through those things, like, I was able to slowly add to my visual library and build a large list of stuff that I knew how to paint. And so I went from being really, really shit at clouds to being, like, feeling like I'm amazing at clouds. And being able to do that, like, from memory and from my imagination. And then even still, like, reference stuff sometimes if I wanted to do something in specific. I'll pull up a reference and I'll be able to, like, build on top of my existing visual library by adding more references, from my reference folder or from finding something on Pinterest. And, like, that's also how I learned anatomy, is, like, trying to draw somebody and then having it look kind of shitty and then asking myself, like, how do I make this look better? And, like, realizing where I was making the mistakes and making the corrections, like, on the paintings I was trying to finish or on the drawings I was trying to finish. That, like, over time built up into like a whole visual library for like anatomy, even without knowing all the muscles and bones and everything academically, still able to like BS my way through and like human anatomy pretty well, to the point people actually think I'm pretty good at it. There's a bunch of people in the room with me, and they're all very quiet. Chico's gone away.
I noticed before we did the switching back and forth thing that the face on the left was bigger than the face on the right. Is that a thing you agree with, or a thing you would change at this stage, or?
Yeah, I think like I had already repositioned it a little bit. Like I noticed that the chin line is probably actually a little lower. And like positioning the eyes, like there's so little contrast on the skin tone aside from this really dark eye makeup and the dark eyes. I'm finding a hard time placing them without sort of building my way up to it. So yeah, I think I'd already moved the face down once a little bit. I think the jawline comes down and out a little bit more, maybe. There's something I was meaning to try today for the first time, and I forgot. I gotta start writing these notes down. But yeah, if anybody wants to do any kind of studies, we've got 4 different study images that are up on the Discord. Let me see if I can pull it up. There is a channel called Today is the Day, and every day I am posting a different set of images in there. 1 portrait, 1 landscape, 1 master study, and 1 anime piece. And so you can pick from those 4 to pick one to study. And I recommend spending about an hour on it. I've heard people say half hour. Oftentimes I'm like spending like 2 hours on it, just because I'm chilling in the stream and I'm talking with people and I'm like enjoying the time I'm spending, like being way too picky about stuff on the study. But yeah, and then we've got the dailies channel where you can post them. And we've got like people are often posting along, like I'm doing the same ones as everybody else here, and so we've got like multiple versions of the same piece coming up over and over again, getting to see how people put different spin on it, different take, how different styles and experience levels affect things. It's been really cool. So if you want to participate, feel free to jump in and join the Discord. It's free. And I've been finding it really instructive. Like this process of doing this daily has really helped me feel like I've gotten a better grip on digital painting and like anatomy, because like I've been doing all these faceless characters for so long. I feel like I'm actually getting like I was at risk of like getting seriously worse at art over time. So this has been like my like daily workout routine to try to like continue to be strong as an artist. And yeah, it's turned out to be really fun because they're super low stakes. The worst case scenario is that you like you kind of, learning can be a little bit mentally taxing, a little painful sometimes, but you can't really fail at it, just so long as you're constantly like putting in effort.
Thanks for posting those.
Yeah.
I really like the setup you have with like the left and right. Do you have a suggestion for how to do something similar on an iPad?
I on Procreate, I know there's like a function to like hold a reference over the screen. I don't know how to do it on an iPad. I think what might make more sense on an iPad is to like bring up the reference on like a monitor, on like a laptop or like your desktop nearby, and then draw with the iPad separately, or even or even print it out. Like print it out and just like have it on, tack it up on, near your desk with the iPad.
Yeah, there's actually there's a reference button where you can import an image, and it'll just like have a hovering window of that image.
Yeah, there's better ways of doing this than I'm doing it. Like, there's ways of having a hovering image in Photoshop too. I don't know if it's like a thing built into the newer versions of Photoshop or if there's like another program that's popular. I got downloaded PureRef recently for the first time, and I don't think it allows you to float stuff over the screen, unless I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, I like this setup. One of the things I was thinking about doing for this, actually what might work for you, is I was thinking about doing this in one composition. So like, I was thinking about setting up all the reference images like this. Oops. I was thinking about setting up all the reference images like this, so that you just had it all in one composition. That way, like, they kind of the way I have it set up already, it's kind of nice because I can zoom in on one and not the other. But like this might work out to just put two up at the same time on a single screen if you don't have the exact same set of tools.
Yeah, I really like the flipping back and forth in the thumbnail, because when you did that, just like whatever it was a few minutes ago, I was then able to see more differences between the two than I was able to see just by looking at them side by side.
Yeah, it's my little cheat. Like I can see like the eyes are much further apart on the reference, and like the forehead's wider, and like, yeah, like I need to keep going with the kinds of changes I was already making in order to get the face like in proportion. But that's something I try to avoid doing while I'm working on it, so that I don't end up feeling like I'm, because the point is not like to try to make a perfect copy. Like honestly, like I think there's a point where I need to try to study in a way where I am stylizing the image more, so that I'm not so obsessed with like the exact position of like the figure in the square, or like work in a square that's a different size, just to like really force the issue of having to interpret what the figure looks like, as opposed to like trying to make a copy of the pattern of pixels.
Yeah, I just think that I'm sort of in a much earlier stage of my artistic journey, where like just even things to like be in basically the right place is kind of a challenge for me.
Yeah, but like the challenge of it, that's kind of like what I'm intentionally making that for myself, because this is something I want to get. This is something I feel like I'm bad at, and that I want to get better at. So I wouldn't say you need to work up to it. I would say that I would embrace the fact that you're bad at that, and like allow yourself to stumble over that over and over and over again, because that's going to give you good results from learning to like struggle with that repeatedly. I mean, the plan is to like commit to it for like 30 days of like sucking at it, like it's the getting any one day correct is really not the point.
This is where I really want to commit to doing it for 30 days, but every time I sit down and do it, it it's so painful emotionally because I feel like I suck so much, you know. I just have to get over that somehow.
Yeah, like it starts off with like, my experience of it is that they always start off feeling really painful. And like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't put the eyes on the face. Like, this is going to be bad. And I'm like doing it in front of people too. So it's like extra painful. Like every part of it that I'm struggling with is like really hurting. And I really like, it's like really painful and like, it doesn't feel good at all. But then over the course of the work on it, there's a point where it kind of turns the corner. And I start going like, oh, I'm getting it. Like, it's coming together. And there's some aspects about it I really like, and I'm proud of some of the choices I've made. And then it like starts to slump down the other way, where I start to lose perspective on things because I can't tell where they are anymore because I just like, I've been looking at it too long. And then it starts to like feel bad again. So it's like there's a curve of it going up and down. And I think committing to staying with it through those ups and downs is a big part of what the game of it is. Because it's not like you're going to like feel bad because you're not good at it yet, and then one day you're going to be like, I'm good now, and it only feels good. Like, it's like exercise in the sense that like no matter how strong you get, you never get past the point where you feel your muscles burning. Like, this is just your brain muscles burning, and that's what we want. We want to like put ourselves in a situation where like there's discomfort, mental discomfort. But like if you stick with it for longer, you get a sense of like mental satisfaction out of it that is impossible to get through any other medium. Like, you have to stick with it until you start getting the gains.
I've had a good experience with exercise since the first of the year.
Yeah.
The thing I like about it is I can just see the progress. Like, I can time myself running the mile or whatever, and I can see that like it's getting better week over week. It's harder for me to get that same feeling when I work on art because there's no like number that comes out. Be like, you know, how fat or how well did you do this study? You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to create like a firm metric for it, but I really like, I know that my experience with doing these at first, like about a week or so in, I was like, damn, I can feel myself getting better. Like, I could notice that things I was struggling with were becoming easier, that because it was like a repeated activity, like the structure of it was so similar from day to day, that I was like recognizing the ways that like something that had been hard the previous day was starting to get easier. And it wasn't like, I have a certain amount of additional context because I've spent way more time painting than you have. So I wondered if like somebody would potentially be having those kinds of gains and not realize it because they didn't know where to like look for the stimulus in their own brain to like recognize the experience of getting better. But I am confident that you are probably like, you're probably getting better in ways that you're not fully registering. But I think that if you were to stick with it for 30 days, you would just see it. Like, you would just see that you're like, the 30th one is going to look way, way fucking better than the first one. Like, it would be really hard not to. You would have to be exceptionally bad at art to not see the improvement. That would be a rarity for sure.
I think when I've tried this before, I haven't done the same thing consistently 30 times in a row. Like I've taken like the Bridgman book or whatever and started to draw through it each page at a time. And I think as you go through the book, the drawings get more complicated. And so I haven't had that same feeling. But I think I should try exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
do the same thing repeatedly.
I just heard somebody was talking about the Bridgman book last night here on the server, and like, apparently people do that. Like one of my Discord friends, Tunser, had done that, and he's like, yeah, it was like a thing, but it wasn't actually like that helpful overall. Like that kind of like mega organized study, I don't see that as being like the most effective way to learn, because there's not a lot of ways of applying the study. You know, I think all of this, it gets a lot more meaningful when it's in context of you trying to use these skills to also like draw from your imagination. Because when you try to draw from your imagination, you're going to be bumping into walls left and right, and then trying to learn like what the shape of that maze is. You're going to like reference it against your daily studies, and it's going to like become, you're going to learn a lot. It's going to become much more obvious. Okay. I'm going to start tightening this down a little bit. I think the Bridgman book is probably really good for somebody who's committing to like a much larger course in academic study. Like if you're going through like an atelier program and you're going to be doing, 40, 50 hour like bust renderings and like tons and tons of life drawing, like doing the Bridgman book on top of that is probably like really useful. But for a beginner, it's so in like hyper specific and deeply academic that I don't see it as being like a gateway to being able to like draw from imagination.
Yeah, I got tuned into it from some other YouTube channel that I guess was this atelier, so maybe it makes more sense in that context. Yeah,
like I've known people that did those hardcore atelier trainings, and they're like really good at being able to draw somebody's likeness, like a portrait study or like drawing figures from imagination. They know all of the names of all the little muscles and all the bones, and they know all the little knobs and bumps on the human face, and they're able to navigate all that stuff. Like they know that stuff inside and out. But that's not really like so they could pass a quiz on it, but like that's not really what we're trying to do most of the time when we're trying to draw from imagination. So it can be like a very powerful like tool built on top of learning how to draw from imagination, but it's not the starting point. Like learning all of this stuff academically is not the preamble to beginning to try to draw for yourself. But yeah, I think sometimes about like what the beginner art experience is like, and one of the core things that you absolutely need to learn, like that no one can escape from, is learning to think about 3D volumes. Like you need to think about objects as 3D regardless of what medium you're using or like what subject matter you're working on. Like you need to just be thinking in 3D when you're looking at a 2D plane. And it's been a long time since I struggled with that. So I think it's entirely possible that some people would get a ton out of really focusing on the process of breaking things down into 3D shapes early on, just to like really focus on that skill in specific. But I think that you get that regardless of what you're making, so long as you are constantly trying to draw from imagination and constantly like doing figurative work, because you're going to realize almost instantaneously that like you can't just learn an infinite number of patterns of wiggly lines. Like this is not a game of wiggly lines. This is a game of like understanding like how things are really built and reconstructing them from scratch. I was talking with a guy yesterday who was convinced that there might be a way to like record the hand movements of an artist like through a tablet, and then find in them mathematical patterns that would define like, you know, the like if somebody was if they were trying to like paint an eye, that there would be like oh, thank you so much for the sub, Mandala, really appreciate it. That like if they were trying to paint an eye, that there's some pattern of hand movements that ultimately like correspond to eye, but that like that's not how people work. Like, you know, I've been working progressively over the whole thing, you know, and it's not a question of like, is there a set of hand movements that create, you know, a fashion model? It's a matter of like slowly refining like the volumes and the surface detail. Like there's a lot of different dimensions that the art exists on, and they you know, we have to be considering them mentally. There's these mental states that the artist is going through to examine all these different dimensions that like make up the final image. And so it can't just be boiled down to like, hey, I saw how all the lines curved when like somebody's looking up or down. It's there's more structure to it than that. It's more dimensional. And I think that's something that people don't understand intuitively right away. When you see like a drawing of a cube, you see like a series of diagonal lines, and you try to figure out how those diagonal lines relate to each other, rather than creating a mental model of a cube. But it's not something that can be sustained. Like you're always going to end up at some point figuring out like that there is a series of volumes here, that this is three-dimensional, that painting and sculpting are essentially the same medium, or they're the same thought process in a lot of ways.
I find that when I do this, I often don't understand the stroke that you're laying down. Like it takes a while for my brain, like I have to go look at some other part of the painting and then come back to it to then like re-understand the 3D volume that you've described, or the change in the volume that you've described with the stroke. I don't know if other people have that experience.
Yeah, so there's multiple things that a stroke can describe, right? Because like it's some of it is, oh man, another great sub, Dogan for art. Thank you so much. Don Cage 7, how's it going? So like if I'm adding a highlight, if I'm pushing like the forehead lighter, it could be that I am saying that, oh, well, there was not enough light on the forehead. So it could be like brightening a light, but it also could be that I'm turning the plane of the forehead towards a light that's already there. Like they would both like, you know, when I'm making a brush stroke that's lightening up an area, it could be either one. You know, I can make a stroke that's going to like carve in an edge or smooth out an edge, but those same colors are ones that I could use to like lighten up the eye, or, you know, or the hair or whatever. Like it's all just a series of gray tones in the end. So like the strokes I'm specifically making and what result they're having on the canvas are slightly removed from each other. So until you like can create a mental model for what the artist process is, the strokes themselves look like magic. They look like they're just sort of summoning the picture from nowhere. It's one of the reasons why watching painting demos to me I find to be kind of useless, because it's difficult to understand exactly what an artist is doing, especially if you have if you can't relate to how they think about an image. Then watching them through their work process won't actually illuminate their thinking at all. It'll simply show you it's sort of like a Aristotle's cave situation, where like you're never actually getting to see like the real figures. You're only ever seeing the shadows dance around. Like the the actual thought process is something that I do describe what I'm thinking about or what I'm like considering at times. But I find that if somebody doesn't already have like a background in, you know, the same skill set, that feedback I'm giving doesn't really do them much good.
I actually found the first like 30 seconds or 1 minute of these demos like very helpful. Maybe that's as far as I'm able to follow the thought process. But like the fact that you just block in these huge, enormous shapes that are like I was not doing that before. Like I was trying to make sure each shape that I put down was correct in some way. But when you
Oh
start,
yeah,
you're
correct
like,
to where where it's going to be at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's that's like I've seen artists who can do that. I have no idea how the fuck they do that. It's like theoretically possible to do that. It's just that's for geniuses. Like, you know, for idiots like us, we got to like figure out how to like build stuff up to that point. I mean, the truth is that everybody, like, I'm saying geniuses and idiots, but I mean, the reality of it is that, like, everybody constructs and deconstructs visual information differently from each other. And so, like, when I'm watching an artist work, sometimes it looks like total nonsense to me because I have no understanding. Like, I can't relate to their process. So, like, there's a lot of times where I see an artist that is doing something incredible, and I go, I don't relate to their process at all. And I don't think that people realize that when I'm saying that, like what I mean specifically, because like sometimes I look at an artist's work and I go, oh, I understand what they're doing. Like I see what those marks are doing. I understand how they're constructing it. I know the steps they're going through. But like my wife is somebody who I look at what she does. She's a watercolorist and she works this like highly patterned way. And I look at what she does. If I see a work in progress, it doesn't look like anything to me. You know, it looks like nonsense. And then at the end, it's like a painting. And there's no understanding at all in between. Like I just don't understand how her brain is functioning, and I don't think I have the capacity to. It's just like, she just thinks differently, and you know that's one of the things that's really cool about art is that we get like a glimpse into the eyes of somebody who like thinks differently than us, but it also gives us the ability to like understand the thought process of somebody who thinks similarly to us. If we can like, you know, learn about art process, then we can watch somebody paint and go like, oh, I see what they're doing. That's cool. But yeah, each of the different steps that I'm going through here, you know, sort of represents different phases of thinking. Like what I'm thinking about at this stage is really just about like laying, like sort of taping off different plots of land. Oh, thanks, Flying Oblivion. Thanks for joining us. So I've got these different sort of fields of value that are roughly like the basis of like, you know, the jacket is, or the sweater is lighter and the skin's a little darker. You know, the hair is darker than that. Them being lighter or darker is really not the point. I just need separation. You could do the same step by doing a really strong drawing as well. And then what I'm going through here is I'm trying to more precisely like figure out where to cut between those different segments. So it's like I'm trying to find like more precisely where does the cheekbone end, where does the jawline end. And then I'm in the middle of it, I'm trying to like figure out the volumes and like determine like where is the light hitting and what are the shapes inside here. And so it's like it's this game of tight edges and loose edges. And so it's me just thinking about edges and boundaries. And inside the framework that I've already constructed. So I don't actually need to think that hard or that intensely about any one, like the entire piece. I only need to think about these sort of like little edges and boundaries. Like what is, how high is the peak of the highlight on the forehead? And then how far does it transition before it kind of crosses over into shadow? And how smooth do I want to make that transition? And then are there any bumps? Does it like, you know, she's got this like, what do you call it? Like you could see it in her forehead. It's almost harder when we get in closer. It's easier to see when it's further away. But you can see like these very subtle transitions. You can see like the separation here. People tend to have this kind of lump in the center of their head, but it's like kind of a softer lump. So, you know, you've got these shapes like kind of over the eye here. And so I'm looking at the highlight go across the whole forehead, and while it's there, it's going on this little detour. And so I'm trying to figure out where's the top value that we're starting at, where's the bottom value that we're ending at, and then how smoothly do we transition, and then do we have any detours along the way. And so if I wanted to like exaggerate that shape, I could make a cut like this. So you just like take a darker color and cut it, and then determine how smoothly do I want to transition from the top down to the bottom of that cut. Edges and you know, hard edges, smooth edges. That's the game. There's so much about painting that is just hard edges and soft edges, and like figuring out where they go and how intense they get. And like it, and then because I'm working in black and white, I don't even need to consider color. It's literally just this one game that I'm playing at this moment. And so you'll see people make odd choices where they will find edges that will like jump out to their eye, and they will over exaggerate them because that's just the way they see it. While other people will say like, oh no, there is something about this, the broad shape of the face, that is the thing that I see. And so they will have no detour at all. It'll be this perfectly smooth globe, and they will find that something else is the thing that catches their eye. And this is what's sort of generating these styles, is this way that like people all perceive the same image differently. Different things catch their attention. Different things like are important to them for their aesthetic, and like the different ways in which we see, like very literally, the ways that our brain breaks down our vision are separate from each other. And those differences create these like minor copying errors that accumulate into something like a style. So like getting it right or wrong really, really isn't the point. Because getting it wrong is the thing that everyone is hoping to get to at some point. They want to get it right enough where it feels good, they're proud of it, but they want to get it wrong enough where it looks like theirs. Their specific wrongness. And so, you know, one of my concerns about my own studies here is that I tend to get in really close like this and try to figure out, okay, well, where exactly am I going to be cutting these features down? And are these transitions going to be about the same? Are the values relatively close to where they are in the reference? And when I do that, I'm kind of sapping a lot of potential style out of it for the sake of accuracy, because I don't want to look foolish and draw a face that looks like Monkey Jesus. You know, when you're doing something like the Bridgman book, like the goal is to really be able to help identify where a lot of those like lumps and bumps are, so that when you get into this process, you have an eye for being able to spot these cuts and folds and bumps, and be able to then go through this process of meticulously carving away the bits that you find to be most interesting or important. But yeah, I mean, I think some of it also comes down to like experience with your hand too. Because like I have a muscle memory for like controlling the software, and I also have a bit of a muscle memory for how I like smooth things out or cut them. And when I'm using tools that I'm not familiar with, it kind of drives me crazy. So yeah, it's like it's part of it's in the hand, part of it's in the head. All of it requires practice. Yeah, part of the reason I'm able to talk and do this at the same time is because, like, when I'm at a stage of the piece like this, where I'm really, like, at every stage of a study like this, I'm only ever playing, like, one game. I'm only making one consideration at a time. So it's like, before it was just trying to make sure the color field is aligned generally with the anatomy, and now it's entirely about, like, hard and soft edges, and, like, building this, like, lattice of, like, transitions. And doing that entirely in black and white, it like doesn't take my whole brain to take on one of these tasks. Especially because I'm not struggling with the interface. If you're only having to like think about exactly one thing, like you can be painting and watching a movie or holding down a conversation or doing all kinds of other stuff while it goes on, because like it becomes really, really hard when you have to feel like you're considering like a ton of different factors at the exact same moment. Like when I tried to do these in color, I was like really struggling to talk while I was painting, because trying to consider the value and the color at the same time was like more than I could work out. So what's going on with you guys? There's a ton of people in here and like no one's saying anything. So I'm left here going on a rant. I'm hoping that the rant's landing. But it would make it way easier on me if you guys were to talk and talk about yourselves a little bit too.
I missed the beginning of the stream, but did you end up like sharing or playing around with that resource from this morning?
Oh no, I haven't. Yeah, let me show that real quick. That thing was pretty cool. My first reaction was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and then I played around with it for a couple of minutes, and I was like, they don't have enough images in their database. Yeah, and they hadn't tweeted since like 2021, and I was like, somebody should go and pick this up or like do more with it or something. Okay, let me pull it up. So what I'm talking about is, let me go to the Discord here. Inside the resources section, there was this cool thing called reference angle, referenceangle.com. And so you have this little reference head that you can reposition, and then you get a bunch of photos. Oh, wait, no, there's actually a ton of them here. I didn't notice the pagination at the bottom. I expected it to keep scrolling down. But, like, you can pick, like, different reference angles and then choose age range, gender, different, like, looking this, but with mouth open. It's like some of them are not quite there. Like, they're not all perfectly tagged accurately, but if you like need to get a reference of like a person with their head pointing the right way, there's no way of Googling like, can I get a 3/4 downward angle with like in profile? Like you're not going to get anything. But like if you wanted to get a downward angle in profile, like this will actually get you a bunch of images really quickly. So I thought this was like a really interesting resource, because like trying to search based off of head angle is something I'd never seen before.
It's pretty impossible, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I might end up doing a little bit of like a semi-regular digest of resources that are popping up in the resources tab on the Discord to like make a blog post, so that'd be easier to share online, like to say, hey, here's some resources that are popping up on the Discord, because that's just really cool. I would love to be able to share that with more people in a good format.
Yeah.
I'm feeling all right about where this is going. Now when I look up in the corner here, like I have the navigator up all the time. I was thinking about how I would recommend a beginner like lay out their Photoshop, and personally I get tons of value out of the navigator because I don't really judge whether or not what I'm doing is working off of this window. I judge whether or not it's working based off of this window. And so if I feel like it looks like the right lady when I look up here, I'm like fist pumping inside my brain. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm doing it. I'm good at art today. And when I like look over there and it looks like Monkey Jesus, I'm like, okay, well, I'm learning. I'm getting the learning feeling. I'm being the artist teaching me today, and yeah, and so like that's the place where the thing happens. Like, because like when people are going to see it, they're going to be looking at it on their phones. They're going to be looking at things quickly. There's all sorts of ways that like it's not going to be like they're not going to be beholding every little like detailed mark that I'm making. I really care that it's all adding up into something that looks correct, like at a distance, at a glance. And so like the navigator, there's different ways of being able to set that up in Photoshop, but the navigator is like the way that I've grown to enjoy doing it. So I just leave that up, and like that's been my, that's like, that's it. I don't remember how I got into the habit, but like I just am always casting my eyes back over there while I'm working. Sometimes when I'm painting, I won't even be looking at the big screen. I'll actually be making brushstrokes and looking at the navigator exclusively. Because like if I want to
I could do that.
Hmm?
I wish I could do that with like traditional painting. Like the best I can do is walking across the room, but I can't stretch my arm that far.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like bobbing and weaving to do with like traditional painting to try to like, get a sense on what you're really even looking at. Like getting context from a painting that you're like nose to nose with is tough. It's really tough. Like not being able to like look at it far away easily and not being able to flip it easily makes me wonder how all those like incredible Renaissance paintings ever got made. Like how people do it without that is like challenging to me. I don't get it.
Well, did you ever see the like the first? I can't remember what the mechanism is called, but it was like one of the earliest forms of flipping an image for artists. Is that they'd build like this box that they would draw in, and it would be flipping the image inherently. Let me see if I can pull up the actual
Camera
historical
Lucida? Camera Obscura?
Yes, Camera Obscura.
There's a book David Hockney has where he copies, he gets a photo of like every art in history, and he's like, look, in this 50 years, Europe got taken over by Camera Obscura. Like everyone's drawing sucked, and then all of a sudden everyone's drawings got good. Like they can't all have gotten good all at once. There must have been a tool called Secret Knowledge, and you can get it out of the library.
I just saw my friend Sean Murray posting about that, and it's funny because I had been saying on stream, "There's no secret knowledge. There's no secret knowledge," and then I see Sean, who's like an awesome dude, posting this book called Secret Knowledge, and I'm like, well, that's just the book's title. It doesn't mean there's actually secret knowledge. But like, yeah, the idea of like optics being the secret that like made Renaissance painters good at painting, I totally buy it. Like I remember I watched that documentary about Vermeer, where the guy like who had zero painting ability created a like an optical system to be able to like, and used it to try to recreate Vermeer painting from like with no prior painting experience to create like a photorealistic like fine art painting in oil, like meticulously over the course of like multiple years using like this optical system that would have been available to Vermeer in his time. And he determined that he believed that Vermeer was using this system to be able to make his paintings as like intensely accurate as he was. It was some sort of camera obscura. So like I'm over here trying to figure out how to do this side by side and like trying to not cheat by doing this, but like Vermeer is over here like cheating his fucking brains out, like making history. Yeah, when it comes to making like a painting that's like, a mainline like primary work for publication, I really don't feel any sense of obligation to try to do it fairly. Like I think that cheating is like the only way to be a really, really great artist. You should use the tools available to you.
I remember I think it was Da Vinci, or I don't know. There was some old guy who was arguing with the church because the church was paying the frame maker more than they were paying the artist.
Jeez.
Because the church is like, this is the thing we need for the church. We got the guy making the stained glass windows. We got the guy making the frame. We got the guy making the painting. Like, it was before art was like fancy art. It was back when art was just like a craft. Like,
Yeah, if you're painting a wall, you paint it with people on it. What's the difference? Who cares?
yeah. I only just came in. How long you been working on this study?
About 30 minutes.
How much longer do you think you will work on it?
A lot of studies have been spending about 2 hours on. This one, I think I'm probably going to wrap up in an hour. This is an easy one. Especially with the way that I'm going to be stylizing the colors. This is definitely going to be one I'm only going to spend about an hour on. And then I've got another hour to the stream, so we can either look at some tutorials, or I can work on finishing my very late painting, or I can... I was thinking, like, on Tuesdays, I was like, oh, I have 2 studies to... instead of doing 2 studies, we're going to look at some other stuff. But I think what I'm going to do is, in between these studies, I'm going to start doing some, like, quick one-off, like 1 or 2 hour, like, imaginative painting demos instead, to like build on top of the studies, to like actually, because I've been talking to everybody like, oh, you got to apply it, but I'm not actually doing that on stream. So I'm thinking I might start doing that on stream some, is like applying the actual like education I'm getting from these studies.
Yeah.
Try to encourage people to follow along.
Been talking.
Yeah, 30 minutes. It's, I don't know. I felt like it was kind of going slow, and then it kind of was there all at once. You know, when it's like so much of this piece is just about the face. And so once I started getting the features cut in for the face, got them in the right spot, it was game over. Like, I basically can, you know, tie up the loose edges and call it a day at any point once I got that there.
So you're not rocking a Cintiq, you're rocking a Wacom?
Yeah, Intuos Pro. I prefer them for this kind of stuff. It's way easier without having to like have my arm up in the air doing this, like mounting on top of a tablet. Like I'm able to like stay in a really comfortable position and like use a lot less motion in order to like paint. It's great. And for beginners, they're way cheaper too. I know everyone's always trying to go and spend the most money they can on gear, but these things are awesome, and you can get the off-brand ones for $50.
Well, that's how you show you're interested. You spend money instead of actual time.
Well, I think about this a lot, like, cause like if somebody wants to like get in shape, like the first thing they do is they're like, I gotta buy a costume, right? I have to buy a workout costume. Then they're like, now I need to pay somebody for services, right? I got to go buy a subscription to a gym. Maybe I need to get some gear for my home. I need to get tools for my thing. And like this, the way that we define our identities in this kind of capitalistic system is by like finding where we spend money on it, rather than like everything else. Like money is like our form of personal expression in a lot of ways in our culture.
It's the same if someone's going camping. They're all, I'm going to be a camper, and they go to REI and they buy all the shit.
Yeah, they buy all the shit.
It stays in their garage for a year.
This shit's too heavy for me. I'm noping out.
You just got here.
And I'm staying here. So what are you doing right now, Pete?
What am I doing? I'm painting an Asian woman's chest.
Now I see this. Which definitely looks like an Asian woman's chest. Are you going with color, or is this sticking with black and white?
I keep doing this thing where I like just leave the skin tone black and white, and then I add color in other places, and I keep enjoying it, and it allows me to be so lazy. I feel like the universe beckons me to continue to be lazy in that way. So I'll add color, but I don't think I'm gonna like fully colorize it.
I love how easy it is to just completely fuck around with art, and it just seems artsy when you're just not putting any effort in.
There is such an overlap between laziness and artsiness that like I've never stopped recommending to people that they just find new ways of being lazy, because I think like a laziness is really the key to a style. Like all good stylization like emerges from laziness. I mean, maybe that's not true. There's like stylization that comes from incredible overwork as well.
No, it totally makes sense though. Like if you're trying to break something down with the brush economy, really.
Yeah.
But see, to me, brush economy sounds like work.
Yeah, I know.
just
Brush
not
economy,
being-
that's for like atelier nerds. I'm over here being a DeviantArt kid. Why do I need brush economy for?
Exactly.
I want to be cool like the anime kids. I don't need brush economy. I'll just put in a million tiny little brush strokes to make my Asian lady very pretty, and then I'll call it a day. That's what my job is.
Exactly. I mean, it worked for the old masters. They did like all sorts of like.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god. Yeah, they
kids, for sure.
they're just like they're rendering the hell out of a bunch of flowy cloth that doesn't need to be in the composition at all. And it's just a show off, right? They're like just enjoying it.
I would have loved to see like Michelangelo try his hand at like fucking anime.
Well, I mean, he was already like a hater for painting. Even he's the one with the quote that painters are just failed sculptors.
Yeah. Well, you can just shut up then.
It seemed like Michelangelo seemed like such a grumpy asshole.
I always kind of wondered that because to me, like, I mean, sculpting is a lot easier in certain ways. Like, I'm just trying to understand that, like, the logic. I guess if you're doing marble, like, it's a lot harder to nail, but like, they're just so different.
Yeah, but I mean, we were just talking about how, like, you know, there was a period in history where painting a chapel was basically like a trade skill. You know, it was treated like the people who were making the frames are getting paid better than the people who were like doing the oil paintings. I could see there's like it just sort of coming together in the wrong way where painters are seen as being like the lowest form of creative work. Like, you know, sculptors have to really invest in their medium, and they have to do all these studies, and it's like the studies are really just there. Like, painting is really just there as like a preamble to doing your real work as a serious sculptor. And
But you're literally doing a study right now. I don't get it. I don't understand.
well, I mean, I don't care about what these Renaissance dudes think. I don't give a shit. Like, I love painting, and like, but I also kind of want to learn
They're gonna bully you
sculpting.
for that. They're coming after you.
The corpses of all of the old Italian men from the Catholic Church from the 1500s or whatever. Come at me.
Better than half.
Come at me, Catholic corpses.
Just get them to roll enough in their grave that they just spiral out of it.
They fly at me like those rolling skeletons in the underground of Dark Souls. Just Michelangelo mounted to a wheel coming at me at 60 miles an hour.
Exactly. Like some of them have like drill effects on them. But they do it too much, it just like wears them down.
Yeah.
Into a powder.
The key to defeating
Powdered
Leonardo
Michelangelo
is
do
knowing
something
what
for your
his...
libido, huh?
What? What joke were you making?
I said powdered Michelangelo. That'll do something for your libido.
Yeah.
Like a snake oil.
That's what they do. Like if they're like, listen, kid, you want to get good at art, you got to get the good stuff. And pulls out a little white powder with white bag, like a baggie with white powder in it, and they're like, is that cocaine? Be like, no, dude. I've got ground up Michelangelo's bones in here.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I actually would be pretty surprised if some church somewhere didn't take its relics and then like grind it up into something to sell off to people, like with like touting their mystical properties.
I've never heard of it happening, but I would not. If somebody told me that it had happened somewhere at some point in history, I would believe them, 100%.
Absolutely, yes. So that said, I think there's a market. We should get.
I think we should start digging up some old masters and grinding them up into powder to sell in the black market.
I think you're going a little too far here. I think it doesn't have to be an old master. I'm not even sure if it has to be a human. I'm not going to be able to tell the difference. Like,
Unartistically, like we just find one of those dolphins that paints and just grind up the dolphin.
Or elephant.
Yeah.
Those are hard to get a hold of.
There's a lot more elephant. There's a lot more elephant than there is person. So we just find one artistically inclined elephant and we grind it up into like some sort of poultice.
Oh my god. Well, like, is it artistic enough, or like, if it's an elephant that paints anime? Is that enough? Does that count?
We trained it. So the first. Okay, so I got an idea on how to get rich. First, we train an elephant on how to make anime. Well, we're gonna have to do it in a country where harvesting elephant bones isn't illegal.
Yeah. Well, I think you're onto something with dolphin. It's much easier to get them tangled in your nets.
Yeah. There's a lot of plausible deniability when you end up with a dead dolphin. You're like, it's on land. It's not gonna last that long. It's not my fault that Flipper can't figure out how to do like how to move around on the sand. Okay.
They're supposed to be smart. It brought it upon itself.
Yeah.
It bought all those lotto tickets.
As soon as you walked in here, the whole stream changed like 100%. Oh my
That's
god!
my goal. I gotta mix it up.
Thank you. Oh my god! It's all serious the whole time, and now it's completely off the rails. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Someone else is. Oh, Arenas is also doing the lady.
Yeah, there's been I made a channel. I don't know if you saw. I made a channel called Today is the Day, and in that channel, like I'm posting 4 study images every single day.
Wait, 4?
Yeah.
Oh, for others to use, not.
Yeah. I'm only picking one of them, but it was like I had a few different tracks I was picking from already, and now I'm just like letting people like, pick whatever track they want, and I'm just mostly going to be doing the portrait ones, but.
Okay. Well, I will be back on this train shortly. I swear to God, it's happening. It's gonna happen.
You don't have to. You can just hang out. It's fine.
I know I don't have to, but Michelangelo didn't have to insert funny joke about what we were just talking about here.
Yeah.
So yeah. The room temperature, what's it called? Supercomputer. That was cool.
LK99. That was a huge bust, right? Like I think it died out because they finally got some people made some samples. They got them out to the labs, and they're like,
already.
This is just a magnet.
Okay. I'd hoped. I mean, I had hoped for the best. I didn't expect much, but I thought we'd had more time of dreaming. Like I thought we'd get at least another week.
The same thing happened, I think, during the 70s. Not with superconductors, but somebody had said that they had figured out fusion energy. But like fusion energy that they could reproduce, like you could reproduce with a home experiment, basically, in your house. That it like, they're like, okay, well, we did this thing, and it technically, like this salty water or whatever, when you run like a minor current through it, like have these things that are detecting that it's producing slightly more electricity than is being put into it, because we think there's fusion happening inside there at a very small scale. And so they did a ton of experiments on it, and people were like writing a lot of articles and all this stuff. And then eventually they just determined that like however the experiment was set up made it difficult to actually read how much electricity was going in and out of the experiment, but that it was always a net negative, a minor net negative. But it was confounding the people who were trying to do the study just enough to make it difficult to tell. But, you know, of course, it's the same thing where there's a kind of novel thing. We're like, well, how come it's a superconductor? It seems to defy all the laws of science. You're like, oh, it like makes the graphite atoms make like a tunnel that the electrons go through, and you're like, a thing which you could maybe theorize about but never actually observe. Like,
I mean, to be fair, like that's how a superconductor does work. Is it makes a tunnel, but like they have to be like suspended in 0 degrees Kelvin or something close to it.
Yeah, like high temperature superconductors, like instead of using liquid helium, you can do it with just liquid hydrogen, which is like many degrees Kelvin hotter, but still like, you know, would kill T1000.
But hey, fingers crossed. I mean, up until the 70s, it had to be like 1 or 2 degrees above Kelvin, and they were able to raise it up significantly higher. Still freaking cold because Kelvin is ridiculous, but like maybe we'll see something sometime. But yeah, this wasn't even the first guy in the last few years. There's another one like back in the pandemic too.
Really?
Yeah. No, that made a big hubbub and then fell apart.
Maybe I'm following more science YouTube now than I was. Clay Chibi says we have better chance with an artistic chimp, grinding them up to turn them into some sort of magic art poultice.
And the thing is, I don't want to deal with chimp. I
feel a greater moral obligation to a chimp. Is that bad to say? That I like have an easier time empathizing with a chimp than I do with a dolphin?
I don't know. I hear. I mean, could be another unsubstantiated science fact, but like, I've heard that while dolphins, aren't generally as quote-unquote loose-term intelligent as humans, that their emotional centers of their brain are much more complex. So in my head, like, it would be much more traumatic to hurt a dolphin's feelings. and that resonates with me.
You're like, these articles tell me things, and they affect the way that I feel, and therefore they're true.
They have to be. No one's ever lied on the internet.
Yeah. Articles are always right. Articles are always right. Oh, man. I thought I was like cruising through this. I was like, oh, this is only going to take an hour. Here I am. I've got 13 minutes left, and I'm like fucking around with a money-looking hand, and I haven't even started pulling into color.
Like, the foundations are there, buddy. Like, as well as I do. How many of these have you done, and you're still, like, not...
This is, like, 40... This might be 47 or 48.
I think you've got room. 13 minutes is enough.
Yeah, I might be all right. It depends on what I want to accomplish. I mean, I'm looking back on some of the older ones, and I'm just like, I could have maybe gone a little further with it. Or like...
Dude.
What?
That's everything I do ever. It's not the point. It's not the point. Don't fall into my trap.
No, I know. Like, the fact that, like, I can get to a much higher level of rendering in, like, the same period of time, I think is pretty great. I'm pretty happy about that. There's definitely a point of leveling off that I've started to get to, where if I just do things the easy way and I don't push myself or experiment, that I'm not feeling like I'm learning as much. But I don't think the learning is dropped to zero. Like, I don't think even close. I've got miles to go. I keep chickening out on trying to do certain art techniques that are difficult for me.
Oh, yeah. I have that feeling. Can you name one?
Well, one of the things is like I was like trying to do a thing where I laid out all of the sort of rougher structure of the painting before I started going in and like defining tighter details, like the dark areas of the eye and stuff. And and then I realized like, oh, I didn't read those rough areas clearly enough, and I ended up having to like fuss with it all after it was laid in anyway. I wanted to do this kind of John Singer Sargent, like, rough but accurate brushstroke, like hyper efficient brushstroke look. Fucked it up, and then didn't try it again.
I never could do it. I always have to go in and fake the efficient brush stroke look.
Right. And then I tried out your brushes. I was going like, oh, I'm gonna experiment with more brushes, and I tried your brush set, and I had your brushes and Yuming Lee's brushes going, and I was like, these don't make any fucking sense to me. I don't know how any of this stuff works. All it does is make my shit look bad. Like, and I was like, I'll figure it out some other time. We'll do it in post. And I just dumped.
I haven't tried Yuming Lee's, so I mean, can anyone else attest to them being good and worth picking up?
They're free.
I know, but like, I'm lazy. I don't want to just want people to tell me if it's worth getting.
I don't know.
I don't want to try.
That's the thing is I don't understand how most people's brushes work. So I just like they don't look like nothing to me. I need, because I actually have access to you. I want to at some point have you give me a tour of like what the fuck is happening in your brushes. Like, what are they supposed to do?
I don't even know, man. No, I'm just kidding. I have like my base like 5 that I spent. Like, there's like one brush I use by and large more than anything else, and then there's like 5 that I use for like 90% of everything, and then there's like another 10 that I use for the other 7% more, and then there's like 300 for the last 2% that I just randomly throw in.
Yeah, I there's a lot in there, and just digging through it, I'm getting like nothing from it.
Yeah, every once in a while, they're just there for mixing things up. If I'm just really like, do some fun.
I usually do this step way earlier in the process, and for some reason I just kept putting it off, and now I'm like adding in a background color where I've already cut the silhouette.
I don't know why I feel like. Are you limiting yourself away from using like the lasso tool, or?
I like the crumbliness of the edge, where like I get like crumbly bits and like inaccurate bits, and like I feel like it adds character, and so I like the inaccuracy of it.
Gotcha. I see exactly what you're talking about.
Like, I like to do it with a rougher brush all the time anyway, like, because like the little spots that I miss, I like to leave a certain amount in, so that I like have these nice like natural expressive gaps, kind of Leyendecker style. And edges will also sometimes naturally flatten out as well, which is great to have. So that, but now I'm starting to see some people in the Discord are like emulating this, and I'm like, I should come up with new gags to like do so that it doesn't just turn into like everyone. There's going to be a whole bunch of people who are like, how come everyone's studies have these weird solid color backgrounds with like crumbly bits? Like, where did that come from? And I'm going to be like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Keep mixing it up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to mix it up soon, because it's starting to become a thing, not just for me, but now that I'm seeing other people do it, I'm like, because this isn't like, I was looking for some stylistic choices that were gonna help me like make the studies my own, and this is such an easy one. I was like, I could do this every time.
Well, I remember when you were first doing it, you were so excited.
I was like, yay! I found a cheat code.
Yeah, it's still something I haven't really played around with much. I should do that. But the idea of, the not lassoing to fill stuff in, I do love that. I think you might have heard me mentioning yesterday how like, you can, like emulate how like water pools with watercolor to when you're doing that, and it gives a really cool effect that I really enjoy. If you kind of draw up to the edge and like let the not necessarily lines build up between shapes, but like gradients build up between shapes. Lines too, I suppose, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think
Okay,
I could get it if we were looking at it together. But
Okay, well, I don't want to keep you away from.
I'm almost
So
done.
what I
I'm
mean is,
almost
like,
done. We can.
So when you're drawing the yellow over the lady, right, and it creates kind of like these unclear edges between the yellow and the white, or the yellow and the black, and like,
Yeah.
like between the two, you'll have in between those two colors sometimes, like, kind of a little bit of a film of darker color.
Yeah.
Depending on how you're doing it, and like I see it a little bit on the sides of her shoulders and her arms.
Yeah.
And like, if done a certain way, you know how like when you're painting in watercolor,
You get a wet
the
edge.
inside, yeah, you get this wet edge that's thicker. There's it's additive, and then it kind of, there's like a gradient of where it gets lighter and lighter in the center of your shapes, or of your strokes. And I like doing that often in favor of lines, just because it feels more brushy and natural. Not always.
I see. I don't know if this is your brush or Yiming Lee's brush.
That's mine.
That's yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted something that was going to create an abstract textural pattern inside of a fill, and I'm like, it's doing it.
Exactly. Like, that's one of my like 2% brushes that I throw in, just mix it up.
Yeah.
With
No,
some
like this
weird
makes perfect
standout
sense to
texture.
me.
That's a really cool way of using it. It almost looks like it's made out of those like handheld 3D printers, you know, like where you like connect the dots together and then you fill them in.
Connect the
You know what I'm
dots
talking about?
together and fill 'em in. I'm having a hard time following anything you're saying today.
It's a 3D pen. Don't call it.
Oh, like the pens?
A printer pen, yeah. A pen is the appropriate term. I'm not good with words.
Puna Puna is saying, can you turn Ashley up a little bit? Yeah, Ash, you are 100% turned up.
Guy, like my face, like I'm like eating the mic, guys.
I know, but there's some gain. You gotta turn something up on your system or something.
The gain is maxed. Maybe. What if I turn the gain down?
Turn the gain down and turn your mic input up.
How's this?
Oh, you're quiet.
Oh yeah. So I gotta have the gain up.
But it's like, to have a really good audio quality, you usually have the gain down and then you boost it somewhere else. Are you going through a mixer? Or are you just going straight into the back of the PC?
Straight into the thing.
All right. Well, feel free to bug Dustin sometime. He knows how to do the audio. He's like Donatello. He does machines.
I'm gonna have to. It's so weird because whenever I test my voice, like it comes out great, and I don't know.
You are always one of the quieter people on the channel.
Hmm.
Ooh, look at that. I wanted to look at that. Oh my god, instant art. Blam. Okay, so your effects brushes I get. It's all the painting stuff, and maybe it's the Yiming Lee stuff that's like really throwing me off, because like they're all set with like the airbrush on, so the hotkeys for like flow and opacity are reversed. Flying Oblivion's asking, do you know how many angels will be in the Angelarium? I got no idea. Why don't you paint the background before the drawing? Because I like the way that it like doesn't work exactly right. Like the dysfunction of it is like the point.
So Pete, with what you were saying is, a lot of the brushes I have come from this brush pack that I bought, and a number of those have flow set to the default, and it's really annoying. And all the brushes that are like that big set of 100 or 200 or whatever, I don't use them often enough to give a reason to fix the setting on them. So if they make it through into my regular rotation, then okay, fine, I'll fix the flow problem on them. But I hate it. I do not like flow. Some people love it.
I don't. Yeah, I set it and forget it. Like I really care about having the flow down a little bit, but I don't ever want to like modulate it while I'm working. Like I want the hotkeys to be controlling the opacity personally.
Yeah, same.
Oh, I forgot to draw the lips. But yeah, Yuming Lee's got a new like. So I downloaded the free brush pack, and then 2 days later it was like, hey, I've got a new like demo / like, you know, like tutorial thing on Gumroad, and I was like, oh my god, the brush pack is like the greatest mailing list sign up thing trap ever. So smart. Mm-hmm. I bet he's making big bucks the last couple of days.
It very often feels predatory because I feel like
it's not predatory. It's just good marketing.
It's not. It is good marketing, but it's like a super easy trap to get into. Like when you're like just getting into digital art is to collect all the brushes.
Oh my god, yeah. Like there was somebody on the Discord once where they were like, "Oh yeah, I just started drawing a month ago," and they were like scrolling through like hundreds of brush packs. I was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Because I'm like, okay, after 20 years, I think I'm gonna download not just one but 2 new brush packs.
Well, if they're working for you, though.
I know. Well, yeah, they're working for me, I guess. I just like, you know, I want a little new spice in my life. I got that, you know, who doesn't want a little new something, little excitement every once in a while? I'm not gonna cheat on my wife. I'm gonna download brush packs. Lamau apparently gets caught in the in the filter, in the mod filter. That's funny.
Huh? What does?
In the Twitch chat, Lamau gets caught as profanity by the filter. I have no idea why. Lamau.
Oh, just a second. I just noticed someone asked me. So I don't know how like this like I've used Twitch like a handful of times in my life. Like,
sure.
Did people hanging out on here count toward the Twitch view count over there? Like, is
no.
there like some sort of thing between Discord and Twitch? Or
no, it's just so Twitch sees my OBS, and my OBS has my stereo mix along with my mic in it. So it pulls from multiple video sources, multiple audio sources, mixes it together, alchemy-like, into Twitch juice that it then beams out over the Twitch mothership that then gets broadcast. So like Twitch only I was looking at like this feature called Guest Star, where like you can bring people onto your stream, and I realized after digging into it a little bit, oh, it's just an OBS overlay. Like the data that it gets from the stream isn't actually put anywhere in Twitch. It's just like more shit that gets like filtered into the OBS soup and then like served out to Twitch. So it's OBS is where all the actual work happens. It's like a free piece of software. It's like open source free software is actually the thing that like does all the work, and then Twitch is like just mixing and just like serving the video that it receives from OBS. Like that's it.
Awesome. Something tells me it's not going to stay that way forever.
Well, that's the thing is like they discovered that like everyone was basically doing all of their like community stuff on Discord instead of through Twitch, because Twitch has pretty basic tools as far as like, hey, you can be in chat, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to do stuff with other people, then people were like, you know, making that happen in the Discord space and then strapping that onto the side of their OBS and then beaming it out to Twitch. And so now they're trying to like create tools that negate the need for Discord, to bypass Discord, but not OBS. Like I don't think they're ever going to take on OBS as like, because it's just like having this be an open standard I think is good for everybody.
Mm.
All right. So I didn't actually technically do any color here. Maybe I should do some color. I'm kind of like at the end. I could kind of call it.
You know what to do.
Gradient map is what I want to do.
Yep. Of course. Of course.
I haven't been doing a lot of gradient maps because I feel like this like lazy gradient map look is just a little played. I'm not super fan of it. I want the gradient map to do something specific other than just add random color.
I mean, there have to be some like plugins for gradient maps that change how they operate, right?
I think it's just more gradients.
Now I'm curious. Okay, I gotta look this up. I'm super curious.
What are you curious about? What are you looking up? Like,
if there's any like other something, a way to adjust how gradient maps work to have, you know, other types of properties. It's kind of hard to I mean, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm looking.
I still have no idea what you're talking about. Are you like on an edible today or something? What's going on?
Gradient maps work entirely based off of value.
Yes.
And it's from a left to right scale.
Yeah.
What if it was based off of a gamut map, for example? What if it was based off of a matrix of options rather than a left to right? Like, I'm curious.
Let's make something difficult and complicated more difficult and complicated. Come on.
Dude.
Let's go.
If it worked off of a matrix of options, that would infinitely, like, oh my god, I'm looking this up. There's gotta be.
You'd be one of the 10 people. It'd be you, and then my friend, what's her face, Kirsten, would be like the 2 people on the planet that would use it. It'd be like, you don't understand how powerful it is to be able to create a matrix out of different value properties and then be able to map colors against them. I'd be like, no, I'm barely hanging on with the gradient maps.
Okay, let me describe it this way. Okay, the gradient map works on left to right,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So by matrix, I mean like how the curves panel has an option where it's X and Y.
Uh-huh. I see what you mean.
Going,
yeah, okay. I could see that. So it's like, what if we were to say, in addition to, you know, it goes from like red to blue, it was also like, and then what if it was a little bit less, working harder on the low end and less high on the high end? And you could like twist that around. Because like right now, what your option to do that is to like take the color and then like just tamp it down a little bit.
Exactly. It's always going to be the same amount, unless you like create a mask over it. That would be one way it could do it. Yeah. Or if it could work with color channels would be another
yeah, maybe. Oh, I know what kind of color I want. So I'll actually give her some skin tone. Maybe Or I could do the whole thing weird style. Make her like an avatar person. Blue and yellow.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting some. The gradient map here is actually doing some work now because it's collaborating with the hard light layer. So if I could get a certain amount of temperature variation across the light, between the light and the shadow, I could start to have the gradient map actually do some real work for me color-wise. Rather than just kind of like make it look funky.
Mm. You know, one way to get that matrix effect I'm thinking actually that I was talking about is if you take copy the image itself and use that as a mask and then adjust the curves on that, it would actually be the same effect.
I've done that.
Yeah, so that would technically, I imagine, be relatively quote-unquote easy to program a plugin for.
Yeah, so like, say I do this, I'll do a little bit of this, and then, you know, fill that in like that. And then, so I've got like, now it's like, now it's kind of masked based off of like with the lights showing the more intense version of the gradient map, or, and then we can then curve adjust or level adjust that mask, which would be cool if you have a bead on like what the thing's already doing. But if you don't understand how this shit works in the first place, it would be like so deeply mysterious as to be completely useless.
And yeah, that and it degrades things. Like every time you do it, if you're going to make if you're going to adjust the curves in any direction, you're going to degrade the quality of the map that you're using. So like you're losing the information. So if you want to make another tweak, you have to recopy, repaste it, and try to hit the right value again. And it's a little wonky.
Hey Pete, I got an annoying suggestion for you.
Sure.
Maybe you don't want the Asian person to have a yellow background.
So having yellow near the color yellow is like racist to put near Asian people ever.
Yes. Like I said, annoying suggestion.
In the group of studies I have, there are quite a few pieces with yellow backgrounds, and they are not associated with anybody based off of race. So I'm not that worried about it.
I think
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I don't think it's a problem.
Yes. We live in a ridiculous world.
It's not yellow, it's golden.
Okay.
Golden rod.
It's not yellow, it's oranges.
And her skin tone is going to have I think I'm going to end up with a teal complexion, which I don't think that there is any associations with Asian people looking teal.
There must be.
There's something about like I want to get this teal color. There's something here that I want to get, but there's something about the way that it's interacting with the shadows that's not satisfying to me. I want it to like blend down into a different color, and it's like I like the way that the white, as I started to get the white to like especially with like the, what do you call it, the sweater here. going to the teal is making me happy. So I'm going to push that out. And then I like the way that we're getting the specular highlight on the forehead to push to the teal. And now, like, I want to take that and expand it to some of the other speculars. So I would have like this balance of like these yellow speculars and then the teal ones.
Against the white is because the bounce light works better. Of the white feels more comfortable with the cool teal, and then the bounce light from the yellow orange kind of fights against the color teal a bit.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm asking. I'm not actually sure if that's.
Yeah, I'm like, there's something about like it's just blending down into this like muddy color, and like I don't know what color I want out of it. Like, where I'm getting these like orange bits peeking it back through here, I'm like, ooh, something there, something there. But it's like when the skin tone that I'm getting through like the transition between the light and the dark areas is just like is looking very bland and kind of muddy, but there's like I feel like there's a hint of something that's like near where we're at. And I'm not exactly sure how I got there. I'm not sure what these tools are doing to get there, so I'm just gonna say I'm gonna stop fucking with those layers. I'm gonna push around a couple of these colors a little bit manually, and then I'm going to try to lay some stuff on top of it to see if I can tie it all together. Like, look at these weird oranges that are poking through. When did this happen? Where did this come from? What can this be?
Kind of works.
Yellow background makes me racist. You fucking break.
How could you even think to do that, Pete? Honestly.
Hey, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying the world is full of people who purposely take the bad angle. So if you just want
I can't affect what they do. I can only affect what I do.
I think it doesn't hurt to consider it and then shrug it off. Like, okay, I thought I was made sure, checked. Okay, it's fine. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, when they all come to cancel me for the background colors of my paintings, you guys will defend me, right? You'll be out there on Twitter as my loyal Twitter army.
Sure, buddy.
Just as long as you're willing to defend all of your fans' stances and views on everything else as well.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, all you guys are all infallible. And I support every choice that you make. Yeah, and everything you do is totally representative of my viewpoint in the world.
been on the internet for a while now, Pete. Does when the internet turns its baleful gaze on you and decides to try and cancel you, does it still bug you, or?
What do you mean when? Yeah, it's like happened a few times. It sucks. I hate it.
I assume it happens to everyone who's on as long as you have been.
I hate it. It sucks. I don't know. I feel like I figured out what to do when it happens now. Like I feel like I understand like how to react to it better than I used to. It's going to happen again. It'll happen to me again at some point, and I feel ready for it for the first time in my life.
It's not enough to drive you off of it. Like, I'm pretty much anonymous. I don't want to deal with that bullshit.
No. There's like a difference between like when people in your life feel a certain way about something and when totally random people on the internet feel a certain way. I've watched artists get canceled for some of the weirdest stuff. And like, I don't know. I'm not going to be doing anything that's going to hurt anyone. And so like I'm going to do my best to be a good person to the people around me and to my community and all that kind of stuff. And then if anybody gets mad because I use the wrong color palette, I'm just not going to engage with it. It's like not something I'm concerned about. Because it's not harming anyone for real or like.
Well, it seems like there's people out there just looking to like start shit because they love the drama or something. So it's not even about you. It's just like, oh, here's an opening for me to use.
Well, I saw there was a there was a Blue Sky post that I saw that was really funny, where somebody was talking about the last voyage of the Demeter, the movie where Dracula gets loose on a boat and kills a bunch of people. And he's like, it's really disappointing that they would make a movie about this, considering that vampire attacks on boats are relatively rare. And that there's actually a lot of precautions in place to make sure that events like this never actually happen. And I'm like, good post. Excellent post.
Why do you think we have Blade?
That's right. Yeah, we've got the American Navy has like that's why we have our ocean dampiers like travel with all American Navy vessels, so that if there's ever a Dracula attack on the high seas, that we'll be prepared.
I totally what?
Did you walk away and come back?
Yeah.
I might go watch that movie. It's a pretty good idea for a movie.
What?
The last voyage of the Demeter is like there's a ship and like Dracula breaks loose from like on the ship, and so it's a horror movie about like a bunch of sailors at sea like having to deal with like a Dracula on a boat, so nobody can leave. So they've got.
It's kind of cool because like he's also like he can't touch running water, right? So like you just shove him overboard and like so he's like.
But he's also like
he's not
flying around like a bat and shit.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get him down there.
He's up in the top sails. There's like a storm.
Yeah.
You know, it's why you have to bring your Dracula equipment whenever you go sailing.
I always do.
Always do.
Every time I've gone sailing. But that's just, that's the code of the Belmonts.
You think the rules still apply? They can't enter your cabin unless invited, or are they on the boat so they can go anywhere in the boat?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you could probably go anywhere on the boat, but I think you probably have to invite them onto the boat.
Right, but usually they book their coffin as luggage, right? So it just gets hauled on.
Yeah, I usually classify my Draculas as freight whenever I'm carrying them.
Yeah.
You're talking about the show?
No, I
There's a new
mean
movie.
for whenever I'm like moving Dracula around.
So I want to know, like, where's the line? Like, if I
Oh,
like
there is a
grabbed
show
like
like
a
that.
cardboard box or a crate and said, "Okay, this is my home now. You can't get out." Get out. Like, do I have to deed?
This cardboard box that I've been making a fort in counts as my home, and you need to be invited in.
You can't play in the pillow fort unless.
Yeah.
you play in the juice box.
That would be really funny if like there was a family being a suburban family being attacked by a vampire, and the kids have like a little pillow fort, and like the Draculas can't get in because they're not invited into the pillow fort.
Oh my god, that's so cute.
I wonder what the rules are to make a
That's
fort,
a
a
for
dwelling.
all you comic makers out there that like webtoons, like that's a viral comic right there.
Yeah, it's free to use. You're welcome.
Yeah.
What is that idea?
Yeah, that idea. Yeah, go ahead and make it, and then give me credit
Yeah,
and 10% of the gross proceeds. And it's all yours.
Not free.
Something like this exists, though. What are you talking about?
Well, fine. We'll just do it again and just say we didn't
It's
know.
Nosferatu.
Wait,
literally it.
Nosferatu made it into some child's pillow fort?
Oh, what pillow fort? No, I'm fine. No. The shit. What? What
The
pillow
fuck are
fort?
you talking about?
I have no idea. What are you talking about?
Talking about making a pillow fort and then keep the Draculas out.
Oh, okay.
Jesus. Get with the program.
Oh man, I've missed this. Oh.
Forts.
I'm calling it. There's something up with the color that.
I have an idea.
This is why I keep just doing it with the grayscale, because when I do weird color stuff, but I have the skin grayscale, it never looks fucked up. It always
I
looks
have a
like a creative
potential-
choice.
Well, I have a potential solution that may not be the exact one, if what you're thinking is what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
Is it that the cools, the teal cools are just a little too like overbearing or too like consistent throughout the picture? Is that what it is?
It's just like I feel like the shadow colors are just too gray, or not gray enough. I'm not sure.
Well, I think that the teal feels gray in the picture, and I would go with something that's a little more saturated. I mean, this is me. This is an attempt I would do as a colorblind person who doesn't know what I'm talking about. But like, I would try like saturating that color in the gradient map for the shadow, and then I would try to like make the orange bloom in over the shadow a bit, because like that orange
Yeah.
light, if she were in front of a backdrop, would glow.
I'm doing that a little bit, and I just feel like I'm overworking it as a result of that.
Yeah, I can't even say that's the solution. That would just be my attempt.
Because I feel like
to-
I'm fucking with the values by trying to do that, and I don't actually like the way it ultimately looks. I'm gonna scrape it out.
Mm. But that said, it looks fucking great, dude.
Really? I'm glad you like it.
I do.
Trying to figure out which of these creative swings I actually want to keep, which ones I'm gonna dump. I can't dump these because they're in the
that one.
stack now. But there's some color something that I want to do something to. Maybe it's maybe selective color gives me what I'm looking for.
Or something.
Whoa. Oh, that's cool.
Hmm.
Hey, Pete, are you on TikTok?
Theoretically, I had a social media manager who was posting for me on TikTok, but I'm doing all my own posting now, and I don't have TikTok on my phone, so I never post on it. I hate producing short form video. Why?
Oh, just it seems like Twitter's about to expire, and I'm just wondering. It seems like video is the main form of social media advertising.
No.
So TikTok seems to be the
Nah,
spot.
I think video. I think everyone was chasing TikTok, and now video's like kind of short form video went from like being the thing to like it turned out that like Facebook lost a shitload of money on Instagram by trying to chase short form video, and so they're kind of like softly pivoting away from it, which is great. I love that like short form video is kind of reaching its natural conclusion,
I feel
becoming a
like
niche
my-
medium.
My Instagram feed still mostly video, and it's mostly artists, which is annoying. I'm like, I try and avoid them. Like, see to algorithm, I just want the still images. I don't know. You're on the front lines. You know better than I do.
Yeah, I think video. There was a moment where video was like the only way to get seen, and now I think it's actually turned away from that a little bit.
Yay.
Yeah, thank God. It's such a pain. I don't know. I'm gonna like stop fooling with this in a minute because I'm way over. I'm like now at 2. I went from like, oh, I can finish this in an hour to like now it's 2.5 hours in, and the piece more or less looks like how it did, but I've spent a lot of time fucking with the color.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
I mean, that sounds pretty typical, but I just want to make a couple last minute tweaks. This is where I usually end up being really happy with any final choices I make when I'm like feeling rushed at the end.
Mm.
When I'm rushing through choices instead of carefully considering them, I tend to like appreciate their outcome more.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not overthinking it as much, I think. And then we need to find somebody to raid. If somebody could give me a recommendation on who to raid at the end of the stream. I forgot to raid last time, and I was bummed because it's been really fun raiding people and like seeing them all happy that like we're all coming to visit them, and like it's been really good. And then I've really enjoyed every time anyone's raided me. So I want to like keep the vibes train rolling.
I say find an artist on Twitch that has one viewer.
Dustin has been like really good about finding people. He's on the case right now. But anybody else is welcome to recommend somebody to raid. One viewer, huh? But also good. And also not somebody totally despicable as a human being.
That's that's fair. I mean, that last part takes a little bit of legwork, because who knows?
Who knows? Oh, Carry Academia. That sounds good. Let's see what they got going on.
Just posted one.
What is that?
Fallen Angel Oil Study art class. Hell yeah, this is perfect. All right. Oh yeah, study this piece. Hell yeah. All right. Well, we'll go visit her in just a minute. Wait. I'm gonna. Oh my God, tabs. Let's see. Dogan is recommending this guy. This guy's out here hustling, out here grustling, doing an Iron Man to 2 people. Ooh.
There we go.
I'm gonna follow. We're gonna get him next time.
Yeah.
Does anyone know French?
Oh, is it in French?
Yeah, it says it underneath.
Oh, that makes it tougher. So yeah, we're gonna do the one that Dustin recommended, Carry Academia. I'm going to save this out real quick, post it in dailies.
How often you doing these?
Every weekday. I'm up to 46.
Let me see your Today's the Day channel.
It's up right above dailies.
Huh. I don't got it. Weird.
In the learning section. No one can post on there, but they other people have been able to find it because I've been seeing people doing the studies from there. All right, so I'm posting my daily section here. Studies, finish studies. Yeah, I guess I was doing something similar with this one, with the yellow and the teal. And I really liked how that turned out. So I think I keep coming back to the yellow accent with the teal highlights. I didn't realize that that's something I've been repeating. And then I was doing this same, like, similar color yesterday, blue, which I think makes me racist against black people.
There ain't no winning.
You're finally starting to get it.
All right. So we're gonna set up this raid, and I'm gonna finish this painting today. I'm finishing this thing today for real, for good, and move on to the next one. I'm gonna bang out the next one this month too. I've got sketches already made. It's gonna be easy. Yeah. $99 viewers, 101 viewers are ready to raid. Let's do it, boys. see. I think at this point, I'm not sure if I'm actually live on my own Twitch stream still or how it works after the raid. So I'm gonna shut down my. I think I'm gonna shut down my OBS. I gotta figure out. I can't hear.
Hey, Pete Mohrbacher. Thank you for the raid. Welcome everyone. I am Karya. This is Minu. 1 second. Minu deserves to be seen since she is the true star.